Sports. Time to play.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should there be an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
So things we learned this evening. Russia have a lot about them.
Full of beans.
Full of beans, a lot in them maybe. And Mo Salah not fit, unfortunately for him. He's not going to have the impact on this World Cup that looked likely just, a month ago. He's not right.
It's a shame for him, obviously, and I just, while Richard was making his way out there, we were doing the news and the ads and that, heard Damien Duff and Richie Sadlier are debating him. Damien Duff was basically saying he should have just played in the first game, but Richie Sadlier was making the point that, look, he was obviously advised medically not to. Sums up Damien Duff, because he would have just popped an injection into his shoulder and played. Which most of the Irish lads would have.
Yeah, I'm sure Salah was desperate to do that. I think the manager made the point after the first game that he was, it was such a tight turnaround from the injury to coming back for the first game that one fall on the shoulder,
and it's probably over.
He's out again, and there's no injecting it the second time. And actually, the few days extra rest
and the fact that they were facing Uruguay in the first game
sacrificed that one.
Yes. With more realistic chance of winning against Russia.
And then it turns out Russia aren't terrible.
Yeah.
So that's the fatal flaw
Worked out now
in that plan. So Patrice Evra, before we get into your overall thoughts on the World Cup 6 days in, he's had a mixed World Cup. On the downside, he literally applauded Enia Loco when she did a piece of punditry he thought was good, in a kind of nice for a woman kind of way, which drew the ire generally of social media. But he did throw in this Ronaldo anecdote, which I quite liked. So he said, I'd give advice to anybody, this was on the ITV podcast, when Cristiano invites you to lunch at his house, just say no. He said, Patrice, come over after training. I went, and I was like really tired. At the table, there was only salad and plain white chicken. So I was like, okay. And then water, no juice. We started eating, and I was thinking some big meat would be coming after, but there was nothing. He had just finished, and he stood up and he started playing with the ball, doing some skills. He said, let's do some two-touch. I was like, can I finish eating? Ronaldo said, no, let's play two-touch. We started playing two-touch. After that, he said, let's go to the pool to swim. I was like, okay. I went to the jacuzzi and the sauna and was done. I said, Cristiano, why have we come here? Why have we come here? Because we have a game tomorrow or just for lunch? So that's why I would recommend to anyone when Cristiano invites you to his house, don't go. Just say no to this guy. He's a machine. He won't stop training.
Sounds like a date.
Yeah. I mean, the dedication. We'll have some white chicken and a bit of salad and nothing else.
It's where he's got to where he is.
These players could eat what they want in some respects and get away with it because
of the amount of training. Exactly, I totally agree. But the levels that he was at, even then, Rio Ferdinand made the point after the 3-3 draw with Spain, didn't he? First to employ nutritionists, his own dietitians, masseurs. He said he went around to his house, it was like a fucking carnival.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why he's dedicated every second of his life since he became a professional footballer, and probably before that, to being the best he can be, and he lives for moments like he got last week.
Yeah. So it seems as well, he had another anecdote about, you mentioned Ferdinand. Ferdinand beat Ronaldo at table tennis. Ronaldo did not take this well. And all the players were screaming, slagging him, because they enjoyed seeing him not being good at something, It was like, oh. So it turns out that he sent his cousin, says Everett, to buy him a table tennis set, and he trained for 2 weeks at home and came back and beat Rio in front of everyone. You're not a well-adjusted person.
I tell you what, good luck in retirement, pal.
What's he going to do with all that?
No idea.
He'll have to channel it somewhere, won't he? What have you done with it?
He'd want to pick up golf or something.
What have you done with it?
Well, I wasn't at that level. I wasn't in that intense.
You were driven. You were driven.
Yeah, driven. And I'd admit, Richie mentioned earlier about Gleeson going to Aberdeen. When you get to a certain age, you need different things to make you tick, and it's not always financial. Like, for instance, I only ever took one move in my whole career, which was financially played a big part in it.
Where'd you go?
Bolton, and I realised after day one driving home, made a bit of a boo-boo here.
Does it set you up for life, though?
Well, it was
no regrets.
Very good.
No
regrets in that regard. But then you have to go on. So I went on loan for 2 of the 3 years I was there.
Okay.
Which wasn't the end of the world, but
yeah. And would you do it again?
Well, there was nothing concrete on the table. I was at West Brom on on a short-term contract. Roy Hodgson then left to become the England manager, and then the new manager came in. But if Roy Hodgson stayed, I was getting a 2-year contract.
Okay.
So then that got taken away. That was the time around the Celtic thing. Nothing really concrete. There was
Post 2012.
yeah, like chats about other few clubs, and this was a concrete offer. I'm 31, nearly 32 years of age. 3-year deal.
It's a no-brainer.
very much.
It's actually it still strikes me as a good move.
Yeah, financially, but in terms of where you are then mentally a few weeks later, and you're stuck in Scotland on a pre-season tour with a team, you're thinking we've got more chance of getting relegated and then promoted back into the Premier League. Then it becomes like, then it's tough.
Okay.
And you need things like I was talking about Glees, but going back to the Ronaldo point, what is he going to do in retirement? Genuinely. What does he do? Where does he get his buzz from? Because talk about highs, the vast majority of footballers don't actually get loads and loads of highs. They're few and far between. You've more failures in your career, more downs, injuries, suspensions, loss of form, sub, dropped, whatever. Transferred, manager not having you. His career,
He gets the highs almost weekly.
yeah. It's like, where do you go from that?
Yeah, I've wondered the same thing recently. Be interesting to see if he went into management, though that might seem a bit mundane for him, and he'll get frustrated in management because it's very, very difficult. He might go down the Beckham route and just be an international celebrity and
Don't think that'll be enough for him.
maybe buy an MLS club, maybe own a club, maybe buy Sporting Lisbon or something like that.
Something that's close to his heart.
I think the grim reality he'll face is he'll never find anything approaching what he's experienced, because you just can't be as successful
Again.
at something else.
Yeah.
Can't be brilliant at two things, like world class at two things. It's very difficult. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Table tennis, I guess, might be.
Yeah. Maybe he's been practicing on the
Practicing.
sly.
So a few bits and pieces to talk about. We're going to check in with Graham Hunter on the eve of Spain's second match of the week, and I know you thought Spain were about the most impressive in the first round of matches. We've already talked England. The podcast listeners have just heard us discuss England, so we won't labour that point too much. Tomorrow we'll probably check in with Philippe Auclair on France. So people might have seen France-Australia. It was on the same time as the Ireland rugby match.
Yeah.
They may not have. So they play Peru on Thursday, then they've Denmark. Pogba's come out and said, I'm the most criticised player on the planet. He's feeling a bit sorry for himself. It's interesting it's getting through to Pogba, which is not surprising because even in France, it's an obsession with what to do with Pogba. It's sort of like what we talk about when it comes to Man United every week in the show. What did you make of them? Like, are they close to maybe finding some kind of balance that might work?
No. I wouldn't say they're close to it. I think they're capable of it. And you've heard me criticise Paul Pogba before, and look, the ones that have his back and the ones that seem to like him, they seem to have played with him in terms of the pundits. So the basis of that team, where I would go with that team would be I would take him out of it, because what you've got in front of a midfield, Giroud makes the team play better. So if you pick the 10 most gifted players, Giroud wouldn't be in the team, would he? So it just defies logic in a way, but in terms of the way the team's set up, Giroud makes Griezmann play better, Mbappe play better, and off the left, whether it's Dembele, Lemar, and behind that, I think it's fairly simple. You go with Kante and you go with either Matuidi or Tolisso, because they're going to play in a responsible fashion. The reason he played Tolisso alongside Kante and Pogba was to make sure they were okay and secure in the middle of the pitch, because Pogba gives you nothing.
It's basically what you suspect Mourinho's working towards. Two
Someone
responsible
with Matic to help
players.
him.
Yeah, someone alongside Matic. He's bought a midfielder already from Shakhtar. I don't know, is that their answer? But they didn't feel Herrera was good enough. But they're basically saying, they basically concluded, Manchester United, we've got our front three players, and then we need two responsible souls, one beside Matic, and then let's hope Pogba does something. Let's see what he might muster up if he's given a bit of freedom in there.
But John, my argument with both club and country with Pogba is the attacking players. So you get to the final 25, 30 yards of the pitch. For France, those attacking players that I've already mentioned are better in the final third than Paul Pogba. For Manchester United, Sanchez, Lukaku, Mata, Rashford, Lingard, whoever of that 4 or 5 players, they are better in terms of creating chances and scoring goals than Paul Pogba.
Really?
100%, in my opinion. They are better in the final third than him. For me, he is at his absolute best in the middle third of the football pitch, when he has grass to run into, loads of space, and he's able to use that athleticism that we see, and he's so good the way he covers the ground. He's silky, he's smooth. When he's on it, he hits those long range passes, left foot, right foot.
Yeah.
But in terms of the nitty gritty of doing it in both of the thirds, defensive and final third, he goes missing.
I don't know what you're going to do about the defensive third for sure. Maybe come back to that in a second. But I agree totally. When he seems at his best, it's like against Man City towards the end of this season, where he's running into the area,
Arriving late.
Yeah, and look at the goal against Australia. It's him. Okay, he gets a bit of luck, but I mean,
that was brilliant.
He literally, their midfielder stands him up and knows he's running to the box and tries to turn with him, and he's got a 2-yard head start on him. He just can't stay with him.
Can't deal with him because he's that big, he's that strong.
So
is
there no way to engineer a situation where, and Graham Souness makes this point, your hero, your hero, Graham Souness,
for me,
makes this point that if you can engineer a situation where Pogba is pounding into the box again and again and again and again and again, up and down, he's a box to box player, but if you can get him running into the opposition box all the time, then he's fairly much unstoppable. Like, as a midfielder, you could appreciate this. You must be looking at this guy, and if you know he's going to make 20 runs into your box,
it's very hard to do.
You'll be thinking, how am I going to stop this guy? So I almost can't believe there's not a way to engineer that situation for him.
Well, both club and country, Mourinho and Deschamps, are trying to do that. But going into the tournament for France, they still had these problems. It was probably why I didn't have them as my favourites. I think for me at the moment, they're semi-finalists in and around there because of this, because he hasn't got a settled side, settled system. I agree in the main in terms of what he can do. There's no doubt about what he can do, but he just goes missing for too long in games. And that, you cannot do that as a midfielder. You can do that as a striker, as a winger. You go and try and do what you do in the final third, you mess up, you give it away. That's fine. That is fine. But as a midfielder, especially when you're playing a three, you have to do your defensive duties. If Alexis Sanchez is playing left of a three in front and Pogba is playing the left-hand side of a three in midfield, if Alexis Sanchez is gone, the right-back's bombing forward for the opposition, you have to get over and cover. You have to have some kind of defensive team ethos within you and not just an individual.
And do you think that he sees the gaps and he looks over and he sees that scenario you're talking about and he thinks to himself, I can't be bothered? Or do you think he just doesn't even see it?
I'm not sure whether he doesn't want to do it or he doesn't see it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
He's so gifted, he may not have had to develop the subtleties of the game.
Which surprises me though, because of, and I've said this before, that the experience that he's had in Italy, the only thing I would throw at that to counter it, that they were that dominant, that Juventus side that he played in with Pirlo, Marchisio, that they would frequently have 70% possession of the ball in Italy. Obviously when they go to Champions League it's a little bit different, but it does surprise me because he should have had a good education in terms of how to play that position.
So the decision facing Deschamps is, do I drop him? And politically and team morale wise and just a moody, angry Pogba in your camp, that's tricky. That's very brave. I don't think that's likely, I have to say.
I don't think he'll drop him for the next game. I think he'll give him one more chance. Whether he's right to, I don't know how he gets Giroud in there, because if Griezmann has to play wide, he's not the same player. He played as the focal point the other day. Again, that's not him.
So you want Giroud and Griezmann together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Griezmann, let's compare Griezmann and Pogba for a sec.
Yeah.
Griezmann, world-class player for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. How hard does he work for the team? How hard does, and in particular, Atletico Madrid, the way they set up, do you think he likes playing like that? No chance. Sacrifices his own game, great or good. Pogba won't do that. Won't do it, and that's my biggest criticism of him.
Okay, very interesting. That game's Thursday. They play Peru, and then they have Denmark on Tuesday, France. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can somehow wangle something. We do see in tournaments teams stumble upon something. You know, they're spending more time together and they develop an understanding. And even I think Ireland 2 years ago in the Euros benefited from time together and got to know each other a bit.
Well, Martin made big calls after the first two games. You remember, dropped John O'Shea, dropped Glenn Whelan. Change it, make the big decisions. Whereas you might think Deschamps might need to go to, now we have to make the decision. Whereas at the moment he doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. He still has that room for error. They draw, it doesn't go, or they nick it.
Things get serious, he might say.
Maybe,
It's me or you, Paul.
Exactly. That's what he's there for.
We'll take a short break. So that's the French. I do want to talk to you about a few other teams in Brazil. Neymar's limped out of training today. Don't think it's too serious, but he's just not quite in full flow. But we'll talk about Spain next. They obviously played out that thriller on Friday after fairly dramatic week in the build-up to the game. They have Iran tomorrow. Graham Hunter's with them, and we'll talk into Graham, hopefully, once we can get him on the line. We'll do that next.
GAA on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boyle Sports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Moncrief.
Okay, this guy thinks he's not great looking. Maybe he's not. We'll take that as a given. So if he walks up to somebody in a bar he's never met before, they will judge him on the way he looks. But if somebody knows him, they're going to judge him on far more than that.
That's right.
He's tall, he's funny, he's intelligent. Jesus, I'd go out with him.
Moncrief.
Sponsored by Avantcard.
Weekdays from 2 p.m. on News Talk.
I'm telling you, I've the winning ticket right here.
I will lift Sam for sure this year.
He'll definitely ask this weekend. You better get your nails done.
Few things in life are truly guaranteed. With Volkswagen Financial Services, our personal contract plans guarantee the minimum future value of your car. And that's just one of the many benefits that come with our PCP. To find out more, visit your local authorised Volkswagen, Audi, Seat, Skoda or Volkswagen commercial vehicle retailer or visit vwfs.ie/PCP. PCP is offered by Volkswagen Bank GmbH Branch Ireland, authorised by the Federal Financial Supervisory Authority in Germany and regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules. Terms and conditions apply.
Bruce Betting are one of Ireland's leading bookmakers. Download the iOS app today to see why Bruce Betting are giving you more for World Cup 2018. Bruce Betting, your World Cup bookmaker. In-store, online, and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
It's one of the great London derbies and it's coming to Dublin. Arsenal versus Chelsea, Aviva Stadium, Wednesday, August 1st. See the stars of two of the Premier League's leading teams as they do battle in the International Champions Cup. Tickets on sale now from Ticketmaster.ie. Booking fee applies. Don't miss out. Get your tickets early. Arsenal v Chelsea, August 1st. Kick-off 8:05 p.m.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, Russia have beaten Egypt. Mo Salah started and played and didn't make much of an impact. 3-1. Salah did score a penalty. So Russia through to the knockout stages. Egypt bowing out effectively is the case. Let's go over to Spain though and see how they're feeling about life. Andy West is the BBC man there and joins us on the line now. Evening, Andy.
Evening.
Thanks for joining us. So last week was something else on Friday night. It was the game of the tournament in many ways. We've Keith Andrews here in studio and he, like a lot of people, think after round one of the matches that Spain have been the most impressive side.
I agree. Yeah, I thought they played really well and, they gave away a silly penalty, a horrendous goalkeeping mistake and a worldy free kick in the last minute and they still nearly won. So all those things that they managed to have go against them, and they still nearly got the win at the end of course, what was a very difficult week with the sudden sacking of the manager and a new temporary manager coming in who has no experience. But they look very good, I thought, and it's remarkable how quickly they've been able to get over Lopetegui leaving.
Interested to know how demanding the Spanish press are. So on Saturday were people across the country picking up the papers and getting an interpretation of the game, which was, we threw this away and it's disappointing and we couldn't seal the deal and this is the kind of thing that happens when you get rid of your manager 48 hours out? Or was there, I think, rightly a general consensus that it was a very good performance and sometimes Ronaldo will do amazing things?
Yeah, there was a lot of focus on Ronaldo. Obviously, he's big news in Spain with his time at Real Madrid, so he got a lot of the attention. And so too, the negative was De Gea, who really, for now, 3 games in his last 4 international appearances, has made very bad mistakes. Obviously, there was the goal that he allowed Ronaldo to score. He made a similar mistake in the pre-World Cup friendly against Switzerland and another against Argentina. Okay. So that's becoming too much of more than a coincidence that he keeps making these mistakes. There's no question he's going to stay in the team for now, partly because they don't really have a credible alternative. But he can't afford another big mistake. He's got to cut this out.
Interesting. He's not in the habit of doing it for Manchester United, that's for sure. Has he spoken about the situation?
He hasn't, no, but Fernando Hierro has, the stand-in manager, who's very strongly backed him, said that we fully believe in him, he's going to stay in the team. A point that has been made that I think is an interesting one is that playing in goal for Spain, or a team like Spain, is a very different proposition from playing for a team like Manchester United, because you just don't have anything to do for long stretches. The possession is kept by your team. All you have to do is receive the occasional back pass and keep the ball moving with your feet. So actually being called into defensive action can be very rare for De Gea, and that's something he's not used to. He's used to being in the thick of the action at Manchester United and you know, having to stay in the game. And so there's that wondering, is this, you know, a concentration issue? He struggles to keep his focus when he's out of the game for a while.
Andy, I wanted to ask you about Diego Costa. When he first came into the team a few years ago, I think it's very obvious and apparent that he's on a different wavelength to a lot of the midfield maestros that Spain possess. But I thought it was quite evident the other night that they tried to play to his strengths at times, and it just gave them a totally different dynamic.
It does. He gives them a different dimension. There's a plus and a negative with his style being so different, as you say, from the passing technical ability of people like Iniesta and David Silva and Isco. You know, he's an old-fashioned centre forward. He barges around, and that doesn't fit in with the way that Spain play. But it does give them a different dimension, something different, because the negative that we see with Spain often, the same we see with Barcelona at times, is the lack of presence up front, a lack of physical presence in particular. And Diego Costa, that was so important that he got those 2 goals, because that has stopped the striker debate. Coming into the tournament, it was the big question, who's going to play up front for Spain? And there was by no means unanimous support for Diego Costa, because he hadn't been looking good for the national team. But now he's got those 2 goals. That's bought him some time, and I think that's going to be really important that he keeps playing well, partly because he gives them something different, but also the space that he'll create, especially for Isco, I think, coming through from midfield. Diego Costa ties up the centre-backs, gives them something to worry about, and that clears the space around him.
With those tactics that they did employ at times, no more so when he did get his goal from the Busquets quite direct diagonal ball, is that a tactic that Lopetegui used in the build-up? I know you've already mentioned that he wasn't guaranteed starter, or is that being player-driven?
No, I think that's something they've been using ever since Diego Costa came into the squad, and I think that's why he came into the squad, primarily because they wanted something a bit different. It's been interesting. Spain have produced so many fantastic players over the last few years, but not really centre forwards. You know, it's not since David Villa, 5 or 6 years ago, that he went into decline, that they've really produced a top class striker. So they've been making do with, you know, really second-class players in terms of the rest of their squad for the last few years. And Costa is an option that gives them that added edge, that's something different to go with the technical ability that they've got the best midfield in the world, without doubt, for technique. He gives them something different. So that's something they've been pursuing for quite a while.
I think they've put to bed the Lopetegui, the whole saga, Rubiales. My qualms about Fernando Hierro are, when it gets to the crunch time of games, when it gets to the latter stages of the tournament, which I fully expect Spain to get to, will he have the tactical nails? Will he have the personality to make big calls?
Yeah, that's a good question, particularly on the substitutions. But in terms of the tactical nous, I think this is a team that more or less runs itself. They've got so many experienced players right throughout the team, from Ramos and Piqué managing things at the back, Busquets in front of the back four, Iniesta, David Silva. They've got so much experience and tactical knowledge as well. I think the players are capable of making that the in-game adjustments that they need to. But yeah, the substitutions is the big one. If Diego Costa isn't working, how long does he leave it before he brings on Iago Aspas, who's the more technical player? Does he look to change the shape, go two up front maybe? Those are the things that will be tested later on. But I think we shouldn't underestimate tomorrow's game either. Iran have got a fantastic record defensively. You know, they went 21 months without conceding a competitive goal. Obviously, they've got a very experienced manager, Carlos Queiroz, who knows Spain inside out. So I don't think it's going to be easy for Spain. They should win, obviously, but it's going to be frustrating for them. They might have to be very patient.
I was in the stadium 4 years ago when Queiroz's Iran played Argentina, and it was a late Messi goal for a 1-0 win for Argentina. It was incredibly boring. I mean, this will not be the rollercoaster ride, unfortunately, that Friday will be, because Iran can actually defend, and they're intent on defending, and that's what we're signing up for. I appreciate we can't really deduce whether Hierro in later stages of the tournament is going to make the right calls or how he'll perform, and Keith's point very much stands. But what kind of impression has he made, even publicly or even in interviews or press conferences over the last few days?
I think he's done as well as he could. He's been calm. He's known as a passionate individual from going back to his playing days, where he was a very combative player. But I think he's steadied the ship as much as he could, considering the chaos that preceded him taking over for the couple of days. He's been calm in his public appearances. He's said the right things. He's not inflamed the situation. He's been conciliatory. He's got people on side. So I think he's done as well as he could in calming the situation. Obviously, you know, it's a results-led business, and I think everyone calmed down a lot from seeing how well Spain played. Unlucky not to get the win against Portugal, but you know, 24 hours from now, if they don't get the result, if they do get frustrated by Iran and don't get the late goal that you saw from Messi, and they have, you know, a 0-0 draw against Iran, then things could quickly turn. But for now, he's made a very good first impression.
Yeah, it's true. Funny, I could be totally wrong. We all have our own opinions. I thought Iniesta did okay, personally. I thought he got some nice touches, and he was himself on the ball. But I've heard a few people say they didn't think he was very good. Is he under any pressure for his place? Is it a common feeling that he might be?
No, I think he'll stay in the team, but we'll continue to see what we saw in the Portugal game, that he'll play for an hour and no more. And that was something really that we saw with Barcelona as well. He's, especially, you know, in an intense tournament, 7 games, if they go all the way in the space of 4 weeks, he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes much at all. So I think we'll see him coming off second half a lot. May miss the odd game to start. I think when it comes to the crunch games, he will definitely be in there. But they do have such a good midfield. You know, Saul, for me, is a player who would walk into any international team apart from Spain. And they've got Thiago as well, who did a great job, obviously, when he came on.
Very good, yeah.
Against Portugal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he'll start, but he will be very much rotated. The first one to be rotated.
I think it was as good as Isco's played, or like he was very, very good. I don't know what you thought.
I was expecting a big tournament off Isco. I think he's come of age.
26 now.
In the Spanish setup, I think for a couple of years he's had to be the kind of best supporting actor. I don't know what Andy thinks of that, but I've certainly been a fan of his in the qualification games. And coming into this tournament, I expected big things. Right. I think he's arrived.
He's really good.
Oh, top notch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he could be the one that makes the difference for Spain. He's the one that will get the goals from midfield. He's got a really good goal scoring record. If you look at it, it's deceptive if you just look at the numbers, because of the amount of games he's played as a sub, or he's been taken off with Real Madrid. But if you look at it per minute, his goal scoring record not far off one every other game, and he's going to be the one that will benefit from Diego Costa physically wearing down the defences. And he's in the last couple of years been at his best for Spain. He's the individual probably who's got the most to lose from Lopetegui leaving, because they go back a long way. Isco was his key player when they won the under-21s 5 years ago. So having him there as the manager was big for Isco. And we'll see. It hasn't happened so far, obviously. He was very good against Portugal, but what we've always seen with Isco is that at Real Madrid, at club level, he'll have a few great games, but as soon as he doesn't have a great game, he's the first one to be taken off. So hopefully Hierro will have a bit more faith in him and stick with him.
Yeah, okay. And I guess we couldn't let you go without asking you if you think England are going to win the World Cup now.
No. You know, they scraped to win, started well, I thought, against Tunisia.
Resilient character, leadership, I mean, all that stuff. That was the secret.
You know, through the groups, the Belgium game obviously will be tough, but I don't see England going very far in the knockouts, unfortunately. I thought as soon as the start that England made was really good, but mainly because of Tunisia's comical defending in the first 15 minutes. And as soon as they tightened up and started to play properly, England didn't really have much imagination. I don't think they'll go very far.
Andy, if you're not going to get carried away, there's no point having you on. I mean, come on.
I'll get carried away for Isco for you.
Okay.
England, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Well, enjoy the match tomorrow, and I guess we'll check in at some stage, Andy.
Cheers. Look forward
Thanks,
to that.
Andy.
Thanks a million. That's Andy West, BBC's man over in Spain, giving us his take on things. Graham Hunter gone AWOL.
On the Raz.
But Andy was good enough to step in. So, yeah, that's Spain. Iran tomorrow. Like I said, they were just so brilliantly defensive against Argentina 4 years ago.
5 goals they conceded in qualification.
Yeah, I was at the game. I was bored. I was like, this is so boring. Because Argentina ran out of ideas quickly. Because they realised these guys really have things
down to a T.
Well put together. I'm sure you've been in games with yourself where you mightn't score, but you feel we're poking the odd hole here and there. Whereas I think it was like, oh crap, this is going to be.
Yeah, but then Messi turns up.
Messi, where are you? Do your thing. And he scored an amazing goal. And Maradona was, don't want to exaggerate, it was in my eye. He was about 50 seats ahead. He was down amongst the people.
Was he?
For this one. Usually he's up in a box.
A corporate gig now.
Yeah, people would have seen him up in the box.
Up to no good.
Seemed to have a cold of some kind. He was kind of sniffing.
A bit suspicious to me.
Well, it made the pollen in the air. Maybe he was itchy nose. But in 2014, he was right in amongst it. And that was the most interesting thing by a distance about the game, because he just dictated. It was like a conductor. He dictated what songs were sung. He was doing it himself. It was kind of amazing. Like, he was actually a factor in the game. It was an amazing thing to see. And the Argentinian fans were really brilliant 4 years ago. They were one of the best sets of fans. Oh, absolutely fantastic. And they had this song, I'll Google it. It was like the most famous song from the World Cup. It went everywhere. And you couldn't go anywhere without hearing it. It kind of caught on.
Right.
They had a song about, like, it's just slagging off Brazil, basically, the song. But it was really catchy, and there weren't that many words to it, so other fans just started.
Got it.
Yeah, everyone was singing it. It was like a viral sensation on social media, so even non-Argentinian fans were singing it. So it just became one of the anthems of the World Cup when you were over there. It was kind of a cool thing. So they were.
The Mexican
really
fans
good.
the other day.
I didn't know. I thought
pretty special.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good. There was an
earthquake.
An earthquake was registered in Mexico.
Something over there.
Yeah, I know. It does make you sick that we missed out. Like, you're watching some of the teams here, and it's obviously difficult to qualify from Europe. But there's some terrible teams there, and you're thinking,
yeah, there is. Yeah.
Oh God,
there is.
I mean, we could be as bad as them. You know,
Come on.
We wouldn't have lost 6-0.
I'll go there.
Thinking to
We
yourself,
were good in the second half against USA.
Yeah. A few more bits and pieces to get through with Keith, and then Tom Dunn's on the way.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Here at Topaz, we believe change is always good. That's why we're changing to Circle K. But don't worry, we still have Miles Fuel, our creative food range, and our Simply Great coffee. I'm a bit of a cappuccino man myself. I'm Steve from Circle K Clonski. Circle K, new name, same people.
This year marks 120 years of Renault. So it's like our birthday, and to celebrate, we're gifting you the most stuff ever. Like 1.2% APR on the Renault range, and even €1,200 cashback, and like 3 years servicing, and all the boots are like filled with fairy cakes. Yeah, okay, not the last one. Visit your local Renault dealer today. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required, subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie. Sorry, there really are no cakes.
Here at M&S, we're committed to lowering our prices on the things you buy most often. That's why from this month, we're introducing M&S for Less. With M&S for Less, we're bringing down the prices of a huge range of your favourite products. The same delicious food for a smaller price. Lower prices have never tasted so good. M&S for Less.
InspireFest, Europe's leading festival of technology, science and the arts, returns to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre on June 21st and 22nd. From artificial intelligence to fintech, from the future of work to medtech. Come hear from the pioneers who are transforming how we work, do business and live. Then unwind and make connections for life at our InspireFest Fringe with music, comedy and theatre. Don't miss out. Book your tickets now at inspirefest.com.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Guardado que devuelve para Javier. Pachicho, si cruza, está Chucky, viene el primero, viene. Engancha para pegarle, viene. Otra gran jugada de México y la definición de su mejor jugador.
That's how you cause an earthquake in Mexico.
Commentate.
Yeah, Andreas Cantor from Telemundo, if you're a fan of his work, Keith.
I'll Google him.
So they were 1-0 winners over Germany. I wanted to ask you about Germany, what you thought. I saw a few of the German players make the point that they didn't anticipate Mexico would play on the counter. They'd watch Mexico, they weren't expecting that. Their manager, Rosario, seems to be a very impressive person. We touched on him with Tim Vickery last night. He's really a self-made man in many ways. And Hernandez, Chicharito, said he's like tactical genius. So it seems Mexico did a bit of a number on Germany. That said, you kind of thought, well, Germany... Like, Mats Hummels looked about 40. And then...
Boateng looked 40 stone.
So what's going on with Germany? Is it one of those things where quite often it has happened? I think it happened to Spain, it happened to France in 2002. It happened to Italy
in 2010, didn't it? Yeah.
Happened to Italy in 2010 after 2006, where the World Cup champions don't get off to a winning start. So is it just one of those things and they'll come right, or did you see enough to be slightly worried?
I covered this game and
on RTE television.
For the game.
All 64 games live.
Stop turning into Peter. I was saying beforehand that the worry you would have about Germany would be there has to be a little bit of rustiness because of the fact that Neuer hardly played all season, only just got back in recently. Ozil struggled full stop, but then in recent weeks obviously had that injury. Boateng genuinely looks overweight, doesn't look sharp at all. So once the game gets underway, I was surprised. Osorio has this reputation of constantly changing tactics, systems, personnel. He used something like 43 players in qualification, ridiculous. So where you get some kind of consistency as a player, I don't quite know. But the way he approached that game, Germany were shell-shocked. Because we'd all assumed sit back, counter-attack. They went toe-to-toe. They smashed Toni Kroos, Khedira, out of the park. Herrera in midfield, who plays for Porto, was unreal.
As in, so they pressed them?
Pressed them so aggressively, so high, took the game to them. Should have been more than 1-0 up at half time. But as the game's going on after 15 minutes and you're seeing the way the opposition are playing, right, you've got to tweak that from the side. So Kimmich was playing like a right winger. Muller goes inside like we know he likes him, be the second striker. They were so vulnerable down their right-hand side in that area where Boateng looks a little bit sluggish. Didn't tweak it at all. Second half, Mexico couldn't keep up that type of...
That turns the angry pointy finger towards Lowe then, on the touchline.
Yeah, I asked Didier Mann about the whole Leroy Sané, leaving him out of the squad. Because like you would imagine, surprised because this is a potentially borderline world-class player. The season he's at Manchester City. And the one thing you would say about the German squad is they haven't got a lot of blistering pace. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of technical operators, all like to play in those central areas, the width of the 18-yard box. Sané is something very, very different. But look, if he doesn't fit into the team dynamics and he's been Billy Big Balls, see you later. Yeah. So I do agree with that. But he said that Jogi Löw has that many strikes on the board, can do what he wants.
Yeah.
He's held in that as such high esteem.
He's untouchable.
To a degree, but obviously that might change in the next game.
Yeah, but you would hold him more accountable than the players to fix it themselves.
Oh no, both. Absolutely both. So Toni Kroos and Khedira, let's just stick to the midfield area.
Yeah.
The way Guardado and Herrera just nailed them time and time again. You've got to shift the ball quicker. You've got to match that type of physical encounter. You've got to stand up. It's not just about keeping the ball in possession. That's when you need to stand up. And let's be honest, like they've vast experience through the spine of that team.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They went missing in the first half. Second half, they had a lot of their own way. But Mexico stood very, very tall. So before the tournament, I would have said Germany. Would I put them right up there? No. Semi-finalist, yeah. Well,
you read that much into an opening game? Or
no, before the tournament.
You would have said semi-finals.
Semi-finalish. Yeah. And I wouldn't worry too much about that type because those players will
figure it out.
Yeah, they'll figure it out, but they've just got the nous of getting through games, getting through knockouts. They've got that. Top end of the pitch, I don't think they've got an abundance of talent. Werner, quick striker from Leipzig, and Mario Gomez, big, strong physical presence. They haven't got top talent up there, but behind that, very, very good players. Royce was a big surprise. He's been playing very well for Dortmund. Surprised he didn't start the game. I think he'll start the next one.
Neymar limped out of training today is the other news I should briefly bring you. So it seems it's more to do with a right ankle injury from the game against Switzerland as opposed to the recently broken right foot. So they're not too worried. He was fouled 11 times actually against Switzerland, which is a record. Goes back to Alan Shearer was the one who was fouled. Or Shearer was 11. Neymar was 10, so it's the most any player's been fouled at the World Cup since Shearer in 1998. So, look, Tim Vickery was on last night, so listeners to the podcast might have heard that. Vickery was kind of saying Neymar doesn't always come back in great shape. He's not one of those players, and therefore he's more inclined to slow it down and showboat a little bit and do his own thing, and he's the centre of attention, and he's brand Neymar. But like you would go mad playing with him the way he played. He didn't help them at all. What do you make of this Paulinho, Casemiro, Coutinho midfield they have? Is that going to be an issue for them?
Casemiro got the nod ahead of Fernandinho in the holding role. He wants one holder, one box-to-box and one creative one. Coutinho's nailed on, has to play that position. So the debate is Fernandinho and Casemiro too defensive? But I think, Paulinho really divides opinion. Big surprise that he went to Barcelona. The national coach is the one who had him in Brazil and got him back going again, playing to a high level, because we all remember Matt Spurs being not too good. Let's be polite.
Doesn't feel like a natural footballer.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
For this level, clearly.
For Brazil, you mean?
No, he's just like he's box to box and athleticism and likes to dribble by players, but he doesn't feel like a passer.
No, he's not. You're right. He runs with the ball a lot.
I wouldn't trust his feet in tight situations, quick passes. A bit like, playing at 100 the whole time and let's run and let's go.
Yeah, where you need to drop it down to 80 miles an hour instead and be a little bit more controlled.
Sometimes.
I think he'll stick with him. I think Fernandinho and Casemiro might be a tad too defensive, but I have to be honest, if I was picking between Casemiro and Fernandinho, I'd be picking Fernandinho.
Okay.
I think he's outrageous. I really do. I think he's sensational. The way he plays, the way he's matured in the last couple of years in possession. Under Guardiola, he's gone on to a new level. But Casemiro has been a favourite during qualification.
Coutinho should be taking free kicks though, shouldn't he? It's such a nonsense that Neymar gets free kicks.
I know. Look, I'm not. Neymar falls into that category for me where
I think he'd frustrate you.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh yes. But yeah, Coutinho looked sharp, didn't he? Looked bright. I do think they've got a core of, because you don't need 23 players to win a World Cup. You need 15, 16. You need impact subs. You need a little bit of depth in case there's a couple of injuries. What you need from player 16 to 23 is a good togetherness. That's what you need from those players, and they're not going to cause eruptions around the place. And I think Brazil have that, and they've got the 15, 16 players. Look who they can bring on from the bench. Douglas, Costa, Willian, I thought was bright and sharp at times. He'll get better as the tournament goes on. He really suits the system they play because he goes both ways. I think they'll be thereabouts.
Okay. That is pretty much us done for this evening. Just time to tell you, tonight's mystery voice was...
And it took a while for Niall to grasp it. It took a while for Tony Cascarino to grasp it.
Of course, Big Jack. Congratulations to Ray McLeanan. Ray McLeanan, you have won yourself a 55-inch Samsung 4K Ultra HD curved LED TV.
Good man, Ray.
Enjoy. What a time to win a big TV. If you missed it tonight, another chance to win tomorrow. All thanks to Curry's PC World, who have Ireland's largest range of TVs and all the best brands, Keith. Get closer to the World Cup action this summer with Off the Ball and Curry's PC World. So enjoy that, Ray. You'll be watching Keith Andrews on RTE television very soon, we hope. Tomorrow morning, OTBAM live, 7:45am. Get on to youtube.com/Off the Ball, Twitter as well. John Duggan will be live from Luzhniki. Keith Andrews will be revealing his Fantasy Ireland World Cup 11.
Was that just dropped on you there, is it?
I didn't know you were doing that. If I'd known that, I would have got you to do it here, just to
kill them.
Yeah. World Cup Daily Live, 12:30, again on all our social channels. And then tomorrow, Keith Wood, Matt Williams, looking ahead to a deciding test against Australia and more World Cup goodness. And Tom Dunn is on the way. Keith Anders, thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Joseph.
What a time we've had.
Nice to see you again.
Okay, good night.